G'day there guys, frequently uses shampoo as soap here. It's your host Markee and welcome back to another episode of r/AmiTheA. Now if you love today's content, do smash that like button, tell me what you think about it down in the comments below, and enjoy today's show. Thank you. Posted by user Moist Hospital. Titled, Would I be the a-hole for grave robbing our family pet? So our dog passed 3 days ago. She predated my daughter and even my wife. So it was especially hard on me. We had a little burial in our backyard where my daughter, 8, said a few words. We put her favorite blanket and toy in the coffin that I made, and I buried her. But, unbeknownst to me, my daughter snuck in another toy. I had a stuffed penguin I had for nearly 15 years. It was something I bought for my previous dog before she passed, and this new dog played with it a lot too. I wanted to keep this toy forever because it represented 2 dogs I've owned, not just the one. I kept it on my home office desk and had no intention of ever getting rid of it. I guess my daughter thought it should be with her too, so she took it, put it in the coffin, and I buried it. I only found out today after asking her where the penguin went. Obviously, I'm not going to get mad at her for this, but this cut deep. No fault of her own, she didn't know, but I'm left with a hard decision. I think tonight, when everyone's asleep, I'm going to dig up the coffin, pry it open, get the penguin back, and then rebury the coffin. I made mention of this to my wife as a joke to gauge her reaction, and she said it was a dark joke, and no sane person would do that. I might have to do it and never tell her or anyone else. Would I be the a-hole for grave robbing our family pet to retrieve this stuffed penguin? I can see why your wife may be against the idea of you doing it, but no one is particularly being an a-hole to each other in this scenario. I think it's just an odd thing to want to do, and it's a bit creepy. And now that you've brought it up to your wife, she's going to know if that dog appears that you've gone and grave robbed a dead dog. If I was in her shoes, I don't think that would sit right with me knowing that you've gone and done that. It's really not something normal people do. Personally, I feel like I would hold that against you. I don't feel like it's an a-hole situation. I'd just be like, what's wrong with you, man? I would leave it as it is. I can see why you want to do it, and you're welcome to do it if you want to, but you're going to be judged if you do it. Gonna go with no a-holes here for this one, though. No a-holes here, but I think that you should just let it be. How do you think you'll feel after prying the coffin open of your loved one? You probably won't forget that experience, and it may stay as a part of your memory of that pet from that point forward. I think you should just let it be. Please remember that creatures have a lot of fluids in them, and when they die, well, that fluid isn't kept in place very well. Animals are not embalmed. You would not want the penguin back after 3 days, and do not want that to be a memory of a loved one. I don't see how in any scenario this would make you an a-hole. It does, however, make you look creepy as hell. I'm sorry for your loss, but you aren't going to look very good digging up a makeshift coffin in the middle of the night, trying to rob it of a stuffed penguin you have fond memories of. That crap doesn't look good on a police report. Grieve, get a tattoo, go buy another penguin. Don't dig your dead animals up. No a-holes here. I'm sorry for your loss, but for your own sake, please don't do this. After 3 days, your dog is not going to be in good condition. It's going to be horribly upsetting seeing and smelling that. Grieve dog and penguin together. Oh man, the memory of your sweet 8-year-old daughter putting your penguin in the box is a much better memory to have than what awaits if you look in that box. And if you do get the penguin, it will replace any good memory that you ever had with it. Don't do it. And OP says, I got it. I'm not going to put the photo up of that. I didn't get much time alone with my dog after she passed. I couldn't say anything at the funeral because my daughter said something beautiful that I couldn't follow up. As macabre as it sounds, this is the closure I needed. Getting to spend 10 minutes saying anything I wanted to my puppy. We covered her in blankets so I didn't see her. I just saw the penguin. Grabbed it, said my spiel, then reburied her. There was no smell or anything. I'm going to be honest, it hurts. It still does. It only made my grieving worse doing this, but I know I'll always have a memento with me. What if we move? Or there's a flood? Or our house burns down? I'll have very little but memories. At least now I have something of hers I can cherish forever. Do what you have to do. I have my sweet dog's collar, and I'm not reusing it. It's hanging here as a memento of the good girl that she was. I needed that collar to keep a piece of her like you need the penguin. I'm sorry for your loss. I have my dog's tags around his favorite toy I gave him when he was a puppy. I cuddled him every night. I also needed it. Whatever helps you, and to each their own. Updates. Would I be the a-hole for grave robbing our family pet? I wanted to make an update to my Am I the A-hole post. I couldn't keep it a secret for very long and told my wife. She was livid, but it blew over the next day. She said she doesn't want it in the house or anything else for that matter. She said she wanted it in the ground with our dog, but didn't want me to go through that again. So we kept it in my safe for the time being. It's never to be brought out, especially shown to our daughter, who is not going to be made aware. I decided to seek some professional help as per the suggestion of one poster, and I've been told I have diagnosed depression. They asked me 20-some-odd questions, and the only ones I didn't answer yes to was things like harm. My doctor advised me to hold off getting another pet until I can fully grieve. It's hard because my last dog was bought by my parents and lived with the family until I moved out and brought it with me. This one that just passed, I did all the work. I drove to get her, I paid for her, I did everything. There is recurring feelings of guilt that I didn't do as good as I could have, and I nitpick on things I've done wrong in the past regarding the dog. It's not healthy for me to have another one, at least for now. It's probably the hardest decision I've made in my whole life, and it was playing with my head so much, I did what I did. I'm considering a penguin tattoo as memorial, likewise as someone suggested. Wow, I love the idea of the penguin tattoo, and I appreciate that you tell your wife what you do, even when it would be the easy path not to. I hope you find therapy to be helpful. I know it's helped me through a few difficult things. Western culture is really bad at grieving. We have no idea how to do it. We look at the grieving like they are mentally ill. We make death sterile and pretty so that we don't have to face our fears of mortality and loss. Your feelings are totally normal. People might not understand the thing with the penguin, but it's none of their business. Take your time in mourning your loss and honoring your dead. The Western approach isn't perfect, but there are worse ways to do it. In Madagascar, they literally dance with the corpses. It spreads a lot of disease. Yup, and one culture, until relatively recently, ate their brains, which led to all sorts of bad times. If everyone wants to know more, Google Kuru, and then wish you hadn't. I don't think it was wrong for you to take the penguin, even if it was a little oddball. I get that you're suffering from some issues, but don't feel bad about that. It happens to the best of us. Just do your best to get by however you can. Posted by user Ria. Titled, Am I the A-hole? I cancelled on a friend for a date. I met and dated this girl Agatha for a month over a year ago. We weren't compatible, so we broke things off mutually, and remained close friends. She plays tennis, and I enjoy watching tennis, so she invites me to all of her competitions, and I try to attend to support her. I met Betty 2 months ago, and I asked her out. We scheduled a date. Agatha then informed me of a competition on that date. It was too close to the day of the date to reschedule, and since it was a first date, I didn't want to scare off Betty, so I told Agatha I wouldn't be able to go. Agatha naturally got angry and then stopped replying to my messages. For the next 2 months, she completely ignored my attempts to apologize and make up for things. I wasn't pestering her every day, sending her a message or giving her a call maybe once a week to see if she had forgiven me yet. Yesterday, I got an invite to a party that she's hosting to celebrate winning this huge award. It's clear that Agatha intentionally invited me. I took this to assume she's forgiven me and is willing to make up with me at the party. I tried to call for clarification, but she's still not answering. The problem is, Betty and I are still together, and going strong. I really, really like this girl, and see a future with her. I told her about the situation with Agatha, and she got very angry. Not because Agatha is my ex, but because Agatha has been ignoring me for months, and just wants to pick up where we left off, as Betty put it. I don't agree. I think I did something wrong in my scheduling error, and Agatha took time to forgive me for that. Betty doesn't want me to go to the party, but I wanted to bring her with me so that she could meet Agatha. She's willing to come with me to support me, as she is very important to me, and I very much want her to come, but has made it very clear that she's not too comfortable with it. She told me that she'll go with me to the party if I go, since I asked her, and if I decide to stay home, she'll stay with me. No matter what, we will be together. And final point, I think Agatha might still be interested in me because I've had scheduling issues before with my work, but the only time she's ever gotten angry about it is this time, and the only thing that makes it different is that this time it was a date that caused the issue. Friends of the internet, am I the a-hole here? Or is Agatha the a-hole? Or is Betty the a-hole? Or are we all a-holes? If it matters, I am also a girl, and we're all in our late 20s and early 30s. I mean, in all honesty, this could just be a skewed perspective and not the absolute truth. It kind of seems pretty black and white to me that you backed out on her because of a date, and we don't know all the intricacies of your interactions and what's been going on there and what you can read from this person and what you don't read and what you're hiding from us. But given what you've given me, I'm gonna go with not the a-hole for this one. It does feel like she's jealous, and she's just ghosting you, and is like, hey, we can be friends again. I was just a bit, I was doing my own thing. I was in another universe. It's all cool, right? Let's not talk about the past. You just come to this awards night. It's all cool, don't worry. Kinda seems like her way of processing a rejection for something that never happened in the first place. And for that, I'm gonna say not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Agatha naturally got angry. No. The fact that you seem to think that you're supposed to cancel anything that comes by if Agatha asks you to come see her makes me think this relationship is not very healthy. Not the a-hole, you didn't cancel. You already had plans. That's different. And, if how you put it is true, it would seem Agatha may still have some feelings for you. The reason she's the a-hole is because she's risked your friendship over you possibly having affection for someone else that coincides with the time you have with her. Or simply put, she is jealous. Betty seems like a cool chick. I don't blame her for thinking Agatha isn't a great friend to you. If I were you two, go to the party, but don't ditch Betty. Even if Agatha wants to have a chat, she has had months. It's either water under the bridge, and I assume Betty doesn't know anyone attending, so don't go falling for that, just a minute to chat, nonsense. Agatha assumes I will come to all of her competitions, as I've promised that I would. And this competition was scheduled at a normal time and day for a competition to take place, so it's not unreasonable, I think, for her to have expected me to go. Betty might actually know a lot of people attending, because she and Agatha move in the same circles. They both play tennis, although Betty is not nearly as good as Agatha is, not even close to the same league. What would Agatha even say to me if she pulled me aside? I'm fairly bad at knowing what people are thinking or going to say. It took me 2 months to realize I might not be the a-hole in this situation, and only after Betty explained it to me. So what would be her motivation to talk to me alone? Well, from my experience, when you go to a party with a new bird and someone wants to talk to you alone, it's 1, rude, and 2, usually to separate you both and get more of your attention. She may say it's to apologize for her ignoring you, but she has had months. If she waits to speak to you alone when you're attending somewhere with a new girlfriend, it is to be a dick. She could have easily called, so if that happens and you decide to speak to her, I'd suggest making your feelings for Betty quite clear. And OP quotes the, if she waits to speak to you alone when you're attending somewhere with a new girlfriend, it's to be a dick, and says, if you had not said this, I would have been an idiot and abandoned Betty. I am an idiot. I do really want to speak to her, and I really want to apologize to Agatha for not rescheduling, and not thinking about her competition times when rescheduling the date with Betty. But I think you're right. If Agatha wants to talk to me alone, she can schedule a time outside of her party, when I won't have a guest with me. I'm really confused as to why you believe that you should be the one apologizing here. Can you explain why you feel the need to apologize, instead of Agatha apologizing for how she treated you? I promised her that I would support her in her competitions as we are close friends, and I made plans without thinking of the fact that that was a day of the week and a time that she might have a competition. And, instead of rescheduling for a friend that I've known for years, I instead went on a date with a girl that I'd known for about 5 minutes. I feel like I'm the ass here. Ah, so in other words, you had absolutely no idea whether or not she would have a competition that day. Your life does not revolve around Agatha and her tennis competitions. You are a great friend for making an effort to go to a ton of her games, but it is unreasonable for her to expect you to make it to all of her games, especially if she's not keeping you abreast of her competition schedule well in advance. Not the a-hole. Have you dated anyone else between the time you broke it off and Betty? If not, it sounds like she was trying to keep you on hold, or assumed that you'd be interested again since you support her. I would not go as far as calling Agatha the a-hole though, just because she may have been reading the whole situation wrong. Yes, I have, but not very seriously. She has dated other people too, and she has often told me in detail about her relationships, to get my opinions and advice, which is usually just, I don't know, it's your relationship, you know what's best. Agatha is definitely the a-hole then. Update, I cancelled on a friend for a date. So you all helped me realize why I felt like an a-hole. I was being manipulated by Agatha, and I was prioritizing a tenuous relationship that I had been conned into thinking was strong over a relationship that has a great amount of potential. I sat down with Betty, and she was happy to see that I was taking her concerns in stride, and she was thrilled when I told her my plan. The plan was to go to the party, greet Agatha and wish her well, congratulate her, and at some point in private, tell her that her behavior towards me has been unacceptable, and I will need to take a break to reevaluate our friendship. It seemed like a good plan. Betty got to support me and see it through. I got to have the closure I needed. Needless to say, this isn't what happened. It may be important to note that Betty is a person of color, Agatha and I are both white. We showed up at the party, and Agatha was all smiles. I introduced her to Betty, and she engaged her in a brief conversation. We stayed for about an hour. Before I could speak with her alone, Agatha got everyone's attention. Everyone at the party was white, by the way, except Betty. Agatha thanked us for all coming and started rambling. She was talking, and the subject wandered from her awards to her tennis to her family, and somehow she ended up talking about how much she hates insert race here from insert country here, aka people like Betty. Betty is not above kicking some ass, but to my amazement, she just sat there, nodding, as everyone else in the room laughed along uncomfortably. After Agatha settled down, she gave a toast and everyone resumed conversation. I wanted to say something, but Betty smiled and took me to my car and drove me home. At home, I was actually really angry, and I sat down with Betty and yelled about all of the horrible crap Agatha has done in the past that I just forgave. It's like I was looking into a funhouse mirror version of her, not the real thing. Betty listened and told me it was all right. I apologized a lot to her, and she told me that it wasn't my fault, and that she wanted to help me have healthier relationships from here on out. I have cut off all contact with Agatha, after a brief message to her telling her I needed some time to myself. She hasn't tried to reach out, and I don't think she will. Thank you, Reddit people, for opening my eyes. If y'all hadn't reinforced how awful Agatha's expectations were, I would have dismissed and excused her actions at the party. I'm devastated to have lost a friend, but I know in my heart that she was never really my friend. What I lost was an illusion, but I have gained a healthy perspective. Out of curiosity, can you be a bit more specific about how exactly Agatha segued into explicit racism during this victory speech of hers? Hey y'all, thanks all for coming, appreciate all the support, and oh, by the way, have I ever mentioned I hate Mexicans? Like, I'm just curious how this just randomly happened and no one said anything. Award, tennis, training, support from family, family values, racism. I can go into more detail if you want, but that's just the gist of it. I'd really like some more detail. This woman sounds like a maniac. Agatha is white and has lived in a southern region of the United States her entire life. Betty is native, albeit not from the area. There's a lot of hatred there for Agatha's family, apparently. So, literally no one said anything? Everyone's cool with their racist friend Agatha? What would you say? It's her party, and calling her out would result in a tantrum from her, which would be even more uncomfortable. They sort of just sat there laughing where it seemed appropriate, looking awkward. Y'all just let her trash Betty's race and laughed nervously? No one stuck up for her? No one stuck up for her. No. I was more in shock of it than anything, and I've spent so much time just excusing the things that Agatha has said in the past that I've ignored it when she said anything that even hinted at this. I'm glad I didn't make a scene though. We just left quietly, and I think that was the best possible outcome at that point. Calling her out wouldn't have changed her, it would have just put Betty in the middle of a fight. It's not about changing Agatha's mind. It's about letting Betty know that you and your friends aren't permissive of racism. She needs to know that she is welcome, and comments like Agatha's are not. To be an outsider is already challenging. It's made even harder when the people around you are completely silent when someone is bigoted to your face. Betty knows this. Betty also knows that I care more about her safety and comfort than creating a scene that would do nothing except embarrass and potentially endanger her. Being silent was the best option. Speaking up would have resulted in, at best, being shot down immediately, with an immediate change in subject which would have alienated her. At worst, a screaming match that would bring up even more horrendous thoughts, which would have humiliated her. She knows that I do not permit that behavior, as I have cut it out of my life. As I said, I've severed all contact with Agatha because of this. Frankly, Betty is relieved at my actions, and seems very happy that I am handling things in a more reserved, mature manner, and not falling into Agatha's traps. Agatha likely wanted me to either laugh along and put Betty off, or to fight her, giving Agatha the opportunity to scream at me with reasonable justification. Leaving silently was the only way to make sure that she didn't get the attention that she wanted from me. Alright, that's where I think I'm going to end today's episode, guys. As always, I really do hope you learned something or just really enjoyed the posts that were put up today. Quick shout out to all my new and existing Patreon and channel members. You should be able to see your name on screen right now, and if you don't, then I don't think you're part of the club, and you really should join the club because it's a great club. And I want to thank every single one of you guys for supporting me in this journey. It really means so much to me, and I love you all so much for it. Thank you for helping me out. As you can tell, I'm now happy and healthy back in Australia. Thank God it's not cold like Ireland. I don't like wearing jumpers everywhere. I prefer the heat. Thank you very much. I know that's an unpopular opinion. Anyway, guys, I really do hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'll see you in the next one. Have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you later. Bye.